This is Jorgen Matsi from SPG Estonia, Võimla, Tartu Fight Sport Gym, and today I'm going to talk about chokes. Chokes in BJJ, and more exactly why a lot what you might know or think about chokes in BJJ is wrong or misinformed. First of all, we must differentiate between a choke and a strangle. Technically, a choke is where the airway is somehow obstructed, so you can choke on a cookie, right? So what we do in BJJ, when we try to make people go unconscious or make them tap, we actually strangle them. Now, important thing about strangles, what you might have learned thus far is that you always want to kind of wrap tightly around the neck, and create pressure towards his arteries, so he will pass out due to lack of oxygen to the brain. And this might very well be wrong. Why? I've talked to several doctors about it, a neurosurgeon, orthopedician, blood vessel surgeon, a psychiatrist, several physiotherapists, and my own background is in psychology, so I know a thing or two about brain and anatomy. And first of all, when thinking about strangles, thinking about strangling somebody with your body like you would with a noose or a rope is not correct, because a rope goes equally around the head, but a human body can apply pressures only in certain directions, right? So I can't apply equal circular force with my body. There's only one muscle in my body which can apply equal circular force, and I can't choke anybody with that. So my pressure is always stronger in certain points towards certain force vectors. That is one thing. And another thing is that actually what the doctor said is that the arteries here on the sides of the neck, they are quite deep and quite strong. So it's very hard to press them just by muscular force. Also, there's some arterial connection in the back of the head, so it's not very likely that you can completely shut off the flow to the oxygen towards the brain. So the question is, what makes a person pass out? When you look at the UFC or BJJ in nogi, you often see also guillotines, arming guillotines applied, which clearly have pressure only on one side of the neck. And still people go unconscious. So that got me thinking, what makes people go unconscious, or what makes the dizzy feeling that makes you tap? So, and what I found out is that actually near the arteries here, and this is one possible mechanism for loss of consciousness, here are very many nerves which test for the blood pressure, or which adjust and measure the blood pressure within the arteries. The neck is full of such nerves which are sensitive to pressure, and they're especially sensitive in the carotid sinus area, which is around here. So basically, as a simplification, between this big muscle here and the trachea here. So this is the area which is the most sensitive. And when you pressure to the nerves there, a person goes unconscious out of a reflex. It's called the carotid reflex. In extreme cases, people might lose consciousness when they start to shave themselves. It's a medical condition. So, and this is the quickest way to loss of consciousness. In a rear naked choke, most common strangle in BJJ, you wrap your one arm around his neck, grab your own shoulder here, and put the other arm to other shoulder, and it might seem that now when I squeeze, I have equal pressure towards both sides of the neck. But actually the pressure is never completely equal. The choke is more effective, or the strangle is more effective, when I focus on the choking part of my first arm. I put this one on the carotid sinus. I close off the area here to get a grip on my shoulder, and the other arm functions as a counterpoint. So I pull in here with this arm, and I can also breathe in and pressure from the other side. That's what I always want to do. I have the pressure point here, and I maximize the force from the other side. So when I have connection here, I maximize the force from the other side. How do I do that? I'm behind his shoulders and I press in with the rest of my body without focusing really on the other arm. So I get a good tight grip here, and now when I just pull, this is not a very strong force, my biceps is not very strong here, but when I press with my shoulder and press with the rest of my body, I can generate immense force, which makes him tap and lose consciousness probably quite fast. This has implications not so much in the clean naked choke, but when I want to choke him, for example, with a table grip, which is considered a power move, kind of here, so I kind of pull. It's not a power move anymore when I consider the carotid sinus here. I try to adjust his neck and my arm in a way that I would have a good connection on the carotid sinus here. So I kind of adjust it. And now, if I just pull, I lose space here. But if I pull and push in with my shoulder, I get good pressure on the carotid sinus area, and also this might result in a loss of consciousness. I can even do it with one arm. Again, people do it, if I just pull, I retract my shoulder and there is a loss of pressure. But if I think about my arm against this carotid sinus here, and I need to maximize the opposite direction of pressure, I just keep contact here and pull in with and push in with my shoulder here. I still get the tap and the feeling of a good choke. A side choke example. People always used to teach me side chokes like, oh, you gotta have to kind of get the feel of it. That's what always bothered me about learning chokes, is that in the end, everybody had like his own moves, own guillotines, own nudges, and in the end, when we try to apply it, the final answer was that you kind of have to get the feel for it. And I always had the question, feel for what? What do I have to look for? And now I know what to look for. I need to look for a part of my body against this area, which is between the trachea and the strong neck muscle here. One part of my body in that area, and how to maximize pressure to this area from both sides without needing to cut off both sides of the neck. And an ideal example here is the side choke. For example, side choke from mount. If I have the arm across, and I go with my head there, the common mistake here is not having the pressure point in place. Right now the shoulder is on my opponent's jaw here. So what I need to do is that I need to place my deltoid here against the neck area which I spoke about, and I don't care about the other area. I don't need the arm across like this cleanly. He can even apply the telephone defense. So let me demonstrate. He has the telephone defense. I get the other arm around here. If I just start to squeeze here, nothing happens because my deltoid is on his jaw. So what I need to do is that I just need to drop my weight down. So this slides into the area between the trachea and the neck muscle. So what I do is that I have my grip here, and I just kind of slide and tilt. Boom, like this. Now I have my shoulder in place, and I can even choke him with one arm here. I need to apply diagonal pressure towards the carotid sinus with one shoulder only. And I get the tap. A side choke from the side is a little bit different, because right now the vector to maximize the pressure towards the carotid sinus was downwards at about a 45-degree angle. If I go completely to the side, I get a grip, or even might not. If I go completely to the side here, then I need to maximize pressure in this vector, because now my deltoid is under his jaw, but my biceps is connected to the crucial area between the trachea and the muscle. So I can even do the adjustment, pull down, and now I use my legs to drive into my biceps. And I get the tap. So always try to get the feel for adjusting the shoulder into correct area. Another mechanism for the choke, which might happen here, is when it takes a longer time and the person turns purple in the face. The fact is that the veins in the neck are a bit more superficial compared to the arteries. So another mechanism for the effectiveness of a choke is the constriction of the veins. If you constrict the veins, the CO2 can't leave the brain. That's why the person starts to turn purple, and the concentration of CO2 in the brain goes up, and they might lose consciousness due to that. A leg triangle example. So what you know is that I have the leg triangle around the head here, and what most know is that I need to get an angle, right? People with longer legs can also finish the triangle from this position. Of course, they have to lock the legs properly. But the idea here is that, again, I don't need to ideally cross the arm. I can finish the triangle even when this arm is here. What I just need to think about is that how do I choke him on the how do I strangle, so I apply pressure between the neck muscle and the trachea? How do I apply pressure in the correct direction? Most common mistake here is that people start to pull down, but now the area slides across my leg. What takes care of that is taking an angle. Everybody knows how to take the correct angle in a triangle. I go to the correct angle, and now when I pull his head down in any which way, I pull him into my leg, right? So when I pull down here, I get the tap. So if I'm in front of him and I want to get the cleaner triangle or a better triangle choke, if I'm here, I don't need to pull down, but I need to pull into the leg and push my legs towards his neck. And now when I pull down, it takes a lot of force. If I pull sideways, I get the tap much quicker. Again, I can applying the choke, I can apply the concept of applying force into this area and maximizing the opposing force vector. Guillotine example. What got me first thinking on this topic was the guillotine about 5 years ago. There are so many guillotines. There's the Marcelo Garcia guillotine. John Kavanagh has his own guillotine. Josh Hinger has his guillotine. We saw Matt Hughes choke out Ricardo Almeida with like a wrestler choke from front position. There's a lot of like arm in, arm out types of chokes, and most people teach them their choke details. But again, in the end, the final answer always was that you kind of have to feel it out. Now, my theory about trying to apply the maximum force into the choke point here, this answers the question, feel what? And what it also says is that every guillotine is a little bit different, not in the sense that every famous guy who is famous for guillotines has his own special move, but it depends on my body, the length of my arms, my levers, my legs, and also the thickness of his neck, broadness of his shoulders, and due to that, every guillotine is a little bit different. I just need to consider it when applying. When I take the classic Marcelo guillotine, high elbow guillotine, then I fall to the side and I maximize pressure to this side. If I have this guillotine here, I fall to this side, I maximize pressure from this side by falling into my other side here. So this is one example. The most difficult example is the arm-in guillotine, because there I have only one side of the neck. I have his head here, and the main mistake here is that people start to kind of pull down in any which way, and then the force vector goes into a wrong direction. I just need to feel which part of my arm makes contact with the carotid sinus here, because it can only be on one side. The other side has arm in. So right now it's about this part in here, and now I need to think about which is the force vectors I need to apply. The direction is about this, I can't pull with my biceps is only this much. So what I can do to oppose this force vector here is I can push with my armpit and my lat. But I don't need to push down. I need to do the opposing force vector. So not like just down and crunch, but down, crunch, and now into it, towards my nose. Okay, so I pull in here, and now I maximize pressure towards this side. So force vector, if it's like this, I need to oppose this vector here. And the tricky part here is that I need to adjust it according to his movement. For example, if he kind of tries to resist, holds his neck tight, then this is a very good force vector here. But if he, for example, does the common counter of posturing up into tripod, and kind of relaxing his neck. If he relaxes his neck, I can't push into it too much anymore. Okay? So I need to rethink it. I adjust the choke point. It's not on very well again. I pull it through. Now I have my the lower part of my biceps on his neck. I pull it through, and now I flex my biceps here. And I have adjusted the force vector. So basically, whichever choke you are applying, think about which part of your body, arm, it can be forearm, higher part of forearm, biceps, which part of your body, arm, leg, your hamstring, for example, in the case of triangle, makes the best contact with a crucial area between the large neck muscle here and the trachea here. Which part can be most effectively applied to this area? And now, how do you oppose the force going this way? And how do you maximize the force going the opposite way? And if you have these two opposing pressures down, you can make people pass out very quickly. Brabo choke example, and I can address two most very common mistakes in all arm-in chokes. If he has the underhook here, and I'm going for the Brabo choke, right? So obviously I want to manipulate his head downwards and all that, lock it into place. But you see, what happens now naturally is that the most effective point to choke, the bony part of my forearm, is about directly into his neck muscle. And that's what happens when people try to choke here, and they get the tap, and people say that, oh, it was a neck crank, or it was like more of a neck squeeze. So what I need to think about is that if I have the Brabo locked here, I need to think about how do I get my effective choke point higher up. So I need to move it about this way to get it, remember, into this area between the trachea and the muscle here. Away from the muscle, a little bit higher. So right now, it's quite like a neck crank here, but if I adjust it a little bit higher and try to, I get the tap here, and it's more choke-like. Another common version, which many people know, is that you kind of sit out and try to fish for the legs. And this does exactly that. See how my arm structure is. I'm here, I'm applying the choke with this area I'm applying pressure to the neck, it's a neck crank. If I sit out, I move the arm area more away from the muscle here and more towards the neck here. So that's why it makes the Brabo choke more effective. And also, you can apply the most force if you apply a very narrow or a more pinpoint area, like always. The lower or the smaller the surface area the force is applied to, the higher the pressure. So in general, I don't want to have large parts of my arm against his choke point, but as narrow and bony parts as possible. You can see it, for example, in like a triangle counter from Edwin Najmi. When I have the triangle on, and he postures up, right? He postures up. I can't apply pressure anymore here, but look, I have this choke point here available to me, and I can basically just put my knuckles here or my palm here, knuckles like this, and now when I pull down the head, into that I get the tap, and if I just put like one knuckle here, it's very much like a pain move. People might tap or might resist the pain here first. But if I put a large area here, which is soft, so the pain wouldn't be excruciating, I put the palm side, I put it exactly to the choke point, and if I kind of maximize the opposing forces, now this is a frame, I pull with my arm and my leg muscle, it feels quite strangle-like. I am Jorgen Matsi from Võimla, Tartu Fight Sport Gym with my friend and assistant coach Tambet. Thank you for watching. Hit like, share, subscribe, comment if you don't agree with me, and support us if you want us to put out more videos like this on details you might not know.